Welcome back to Who Won the Week. March Madness is upon us. And I'm Matt Ulrich, media analyst at EDO, joined by Rebecca Sandidge, brand partnerships at EDO, to break down some of the advertising impact of March Madness this year.
Hey Matt, how's it going? Very excited. It's my favorite time of year.
What team is that? I don't even know. I don't know that.
You
Is that
know,
North Carolina?
I know, as longtime viewers of this show know, I'm a big Tar Heels fan, so really excited to have grabbed that number one seed.
I thought that Boston College. I, I thought that Boston College won the ACC tournament, but actually it was NC
Ooh,
State.
too soon. Obviously, as a Tar Heel fan, it pains me to see that. But as a basketball fan, excited for the tournament and like the engagement that it can drive, it's kind of cool to see an underdog like NC State have to win 5 games in 5 days, and
Right,
that's really the beauty of the
right.
tournament, right? Like they're all these underdogs, all these like exciting storylines, and I think it's going to be a really fun tournament on both the men's side and the women's side this year.
Yeah, me too. I think the women's tournament is more exciting than it's ever been potentially, and the men's, there's some great storylines, and that's what advertisers are rooting for, right? Good storylines, and this is really shows every year in EDO data. Good storylines
Yeah,
represent compelling matchups, represent high ad engagement with ads, and
totally.
I think just to get into it, I think advertisers are hungry for March Madness this year, and we want to talk about a few restaurants, quick serve brands that are primed for the tournament.
Yeah, I think this year's sponsors are going to be are really feeling good about the tournament this year, the numbers that the women's tournament is going to bring, the engagement that these games are going to bring for the brands. So, yeah, let's talk about the restaurant categories. So, one of the things that we see consistently in our data is that contextual synergy really works, right? And that can mean a number of things, whether it's an athlete in a live sports event. In this case, I think there's like a really nice fit or synergy with the restaurant category and these games because, like, let's take the Buffalo Wild Wings, for example. Like,
Yep.
they have game day food. They have ads that are, taking place in a bar for people watching games and everything like that. And I think it's just such a natural fit for this category with this environment, and that's something that I expect to, produce a boost.
Well, I'm gonna introduce a stat
What do you
for
got?
you. So the ad that Buffalo Wild Wings has been airing, it's called "I Love Honey," and it's about their honey garlic, and it's like this,
Yeah.
it's the buffalo creeping over the table while people are watching the games, and that ad so far has outperformed Buffalo Wild Wings past year benchmark by 15%. So viewers are 15% more likely to engage with Buffalo Wild Wings after seeing that ad. And it looks like the way they're leading into this tournament, the Buffalo Wild Wings is going to be running that ad probably during the games, right?
I'd be shocked if they didn't,
Yeah.
because to your point, it's doing really well for them. It's a new brand campaign that they have out there. It's a cool ad. I mean, the buffalo is super salient, and it has that synergy of like people watching the games and just some NCAA tie-ins in a couple of the ads in the campaign. So yeah.
If we weren't recording this in the morning, I feel like I would be taking out some wings, and I haven't tried the honey garlic, but I would. I would.
It looks good to me. Yeah.
And so is Buffalo Wild Wings, is that your number one seed? Are you unable to say what your number one seed? Are there any other brands that are contenders within the restaurants category to make the biggest
Absolutely.
splash? Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. We also expect to see some Pizza Hut,
Yeah.
Wendy's.
Yeah.
Let's see. Papa John's has been
Mm-hmm.
doing really a lot of good creative in women's basketball, right? So their Shaq-a-Roni pizza ad, right? So
Yeah.
here's another
Yeah.
example of that contextual synergy of Shaq,
Shakaroni. Yep.
Shaq-a-Roni.
Yep.
Yeah, everybody knows who he is, so he's going to grab that attention. And who doesn't want to order pizza when they're at home watching? the game. So that ad has been 68%, and that's not a typo, 68% more effective than the average ad in the NCAA in NCAA women's basketball. Huge.
I mean, I think if the North Carolina Tar Heels could be 68% more effective than their competition, you'd be looking good. But I'm very impressed by
100%,
that
Matt.
that stat. They're I know they're like they're an official corporate sponsor of the NCAA, so they'll get a lot of airtime, and so is Wendy's. We actually did like an internal competition where we ranked
Yeah,
ads and brands last year within the tournament. We kind of made an ad bracket. I don't know if we're going to do it this year, but last year we did it, and the finalists were Buick and Wendy's.
yeah,
So I know Wendy's did really well in last year's tournament. They had the Reggie Miller ad, the ex NBA player who's still very involved, like the commentator now. They were advertising their breakfast deals. So I don't know what Wendy's exactly is going to advertise this year, but we know that in terms of how much they advertised a ton last year. And then in
yep,
terms of the average engagement rate, so was that ad effective to the average viewer? They excelled in both of those categories last year. So if they can carry that momentum
yep,
into into this tournament, sounds like we'll have a few advertisers kind of that we'll be monitoring as like who is
yeah.
winning within this category during this year's tournament.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of casual dining and QSR brands in the tournament this year. I think the biggest, risk for them is just clutter. There's a lot of them
Yeah.
in there. They're going to be vying for that viewer attention, and but I do expect to see them all see nice lifts over their own brand averages.
Yeah, and then we see Geico returned as a corporate sponsor. They weren't last year, so we should see a lot of Geico ads outside of that category. And Home Depot is a new advertiser that is a corporate sponsor, so we should see a lot of Geico, a lot of Home Depot, a lot of the
Yep.
three restaurants brands we just mentioned. And I know we are just really excited this year with the whole, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese narrative. With the women's tournament, I do feel like this is the most anticipated women's tournament that I can remember in the last like 5-10 years for sure.
Yeah, yeah, women's basketball is so hot right now. As we call out in our recent women's sports report, some really good
Yeah.
information there on what an important environment this has become. So, yeah, ad effectiveness for last year's championship game was up
Okay.
18% versus the prior year. Um, I don't know what the over under is this year for engagement for the women's championship game. I think a lot of it is going to depend on whether Iowa's in there, right? Because we know that
Right.
the Iowa games drive higher engagement, right? So,
Well, yeah, it's like higher in person. I know New York Times. I sent you that article, but New York
yeah,
Times did like Caitlin Clark comes to town, everyone's attendance goes up.
yeah,
Caitlin Clark is on TV, the viewership is up. And then I
yeah,
know that we have that stat about even like holding constant that audience size, the ad engagement is up when Caitlin Clark is playing.
yeah. Ad engagement is up 7% for when creatives are in Iowa games. So
So
she
that's
definitely
like,
has an effect. It's the Caitlin Clark effect
yeah,
this year. So we'll be looking out for that.
yeah.
Uh, they got to get past LSU. It's a tough draw. So,
South Carolina's undefeated. I feel like
oh,
they're the sleeping giant because everyone remembers last year's LSU
yeah,
Iowa national championship, and those are like the two biggest brands. And then
yeah,
you have South Carolina, which is actually like seen as the best team, but they don't have that like that nationally recognizable maybe brand and superstar player. So I feel like maybe this is the tournament where a year from now we're like, oh, like is South Carolina back? Maybe
I
that's
know.
how
Isn't
it's
it
going to play
strange?
out.
It's like the sleeper is the undefeated team in the tournament. So,
Right? Well, it shows you how much brands from last year carry over
yeah,
to this year's tournament. But
totally.
I'm really excited. Anything else you wanted to call out for women's tournament?
Uh, I think it's going to be really interesting to see what ads featuring Clayton Clark even do in the
Yeah.
tournament. So we also know
Right.
that they, like the State Farm one, for example,
Right.
great ad.
Hmm.
28% more effective when that ad's placed in Iowa games than the ad's norm, and it's already a good ad. Yeah, so I'll be looking out for kind of some more of those storylines, how the Caitlin Clark ads do, how the matchups do,
Well, she's in a Nike ad too,
and Gatorade
and
actually,
and
right?
a Gatorade
Yeah,
ad. So I feel like those three advertisers are very excited about the
yeah,
NIL deals that you can feature college athletes, and that'll really benefit them from an ad effectiveness standpoint. It's great that some of these athletes are finding other ways to monetize everything that they're doing
I
on the
say good
basketball
for
court.
them. Good for
Yeah,
them. They
and
do
good for
so much for
advertisers.
advertisers.
Yep.
It's nice to see them getting a little piece of the pie there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, well, we got to fill out our brackets. I'll fill out my ad bracket. I'll fill out my tournament bracket. Excited to see how the first round plays out on Thursday.
Yeah. Me too. I also have to fill out my bracket, but I mean everybody knows who I'm going to put in as, the
Uh,
championship, so.
I got to figure out my champion. Honestly, I just got to go contrarian because everyone's going to pick UNC and UConn in the Northeast. So I don't know.
I know UConn's the big one, but we'll see.
Well,
A lot
good
of things can
luck.
happen.
Good
So,
luck on whether you're playing Thursday or Friday. I'm not sure, but good luck whenever you're playing.
Thursday
And
at 2:45.
Thursday at 2:45. Thanks for joining, Rebecca. It's been great having you the last few weeks, and this is a fun one.
Super fun. Thanks, Matt.
Have a great one.
You too. Bye.